Hey guys, number one Marmaduke fan here with a manga and a Western comic. I can never keep to a schedule. Is it Manga Monday? Is it Western Wednesday? It's chaos, but actually it's Manga Monday because we're going to primarily focus on Pokemon Adventures. I haven't read Volume 1 of Pokemon Adventures like a year ago. We're gonna be in Gen 1 for a while, gang. But I'm gonna keep working my way through the Pokemon Adventures manga. All right, so the TLDR of my review of Volume 1 and kind of the series overall is this is one of the best all-ages comics I've ever read. The artist Mato has a perfectly sweet style. It's unique. It's perfect for adventure stories. It's kind of exactly what a kid's adventure comic should be. And Hidenori Kusaka does a good job of paying attention to the games to get inspiration, but doing some creative stuff with the games, because the original like Game Boy era red and blue or green, that was like less than a megabyte. I think it was a very, very bare bones game. So you know, there are things that don't follow the logic of the game, and that's fine. There's some really creative examples of taking inspiration from things in the game to tell simple little adventure stories. And I also forgot that they kind of skip over some things you might expect from the show. They don't show them fighting all of the gym leaders like you would in the game. It's a little bit more, there's a bit more of an emphasis on what's a creative adventure we can send him on, and they don't necessarily feel the need to cover every little detail from the game. So I highlighted this because one of the classics is the Femme Fatale, and I love how everything from a grown-up adventure story is sort of made kid-friendly while preserving some of the warmth of it. So in Japan, her name was Blue. In America, they switched some of the names around, so Blue became Green and Green became Blue. So I'm going to use the English name. So in the English manga, this is Green, and she's a thief, she's a femme fatale, she's a smart aleck who knows how to use her feminine wiles to get under Red's skin and pick his pocket. But underneath all that, she has a heart of gold and wants to work with him to protect Pokemon against Team Rocket. There's also like the great dimension of, I guess there's a lot of online Pokemon debates about which team is the best, but most of my knowledge is concentrated to Gen 1er. But the appeal of Team Rocket is, in addition to having this appeal of like going to catch bugs and monsters fighting each other and going outside and going on an adventure, Team Rocket adds this element of danger of criminals who you have to conquer. So it's basically everything a 10-year-old could possibly want to do on his adventure. And I love how they start this off with Red infiltrating Team Rocket. The writer, Hidenori, also did a good job of picking up on some subtext, like Mewtwo being created was kind of like this creepy subtext of the game, but you never met Mewtwo until the end of the game, and he gets the bright idea that, well, we should make that more of a central plot of trying to Team Rocket trying to grow Mewtwo as a weapon. Now, why'd I highlight this? This I highlighted because Blue, the rival, is much nicer character than you would think of if you only know of him through the game. So the classic thing about the rival is everybody would name their rival something like Butthead or something because he was a jerk. But a lot of people kind of like finally remember the rivals from the early Pokemon games because they were jerks. It really motivated you to beat them. It's not as fun to stomp on somebody who's just a nice guy who's super friendly to you all the time. And one of the other central themes they picked up on is the idea that Blue is a tough trainer and a talented trainer, but Red is a compassionate trainer. So there's a classic story where Red and Blue switch up their Pokeballs, and Blue trains Red's Pokemon using like hard drill instruction, and Red just tries to show love and friendliness to all of Blue's Pokemon. And so he's at the end when they flip him back, like all of his Pokemon are much happier and more friendly, and all of Red's Pokemon are much more toughly trained and military in their style. Basically, this has the effect of humanizing Blue. He's not just the jerk you beat, but he's actually a competent rival and someone who has kind of like a different philosophy of fighting than Red. Hopping ahead, I marked this because they do some really creative stuff where they don't necessarily follow the logic of the game. So Ash encounters an Eevee, and this Eevee actually has the ability to transform into all three of its evolutions. which isn't something you could do in the game. But the explanation of this is that it's being experimented on by Team Rocket. So even when they do something kind of creative that departs from the logic of the game, they kind of make sure to have a little, explanation. Well, how's it able to transform into multiple evolutions? Pokemon can do. Oh, it's an experimental Pokemon that the evil Team Rocket's been experimenting on. There's also neat stuff where anytime they use one of the gym leaders, they either skip over the gym leaders, or if they have a gym leader, they make sure to give them some sort of personality or some sort of role in the story beyond just being a guy Red beats. So Erica, he initially suspects she's part of Team Rocket and that she's behind the Eevee being experimented on. And then after their fight, she reveals that she was just testing him. She's actually working against Team Rocket and wanted to find out if he was trustworthy. And again, the theme of Red being a compassionate person is emphasized. The way he proves he's a good guy is he risks losing the battle to protect the Eevee from her, and that's what convinces her that he's a great guy. In the game, that's just something that gets mentioned at the end after you beat your rival. But in the story, they make sure that's brought out textually. That's a big part of Red's character development. They also do some neat stuff like actually having Giovanni show up early on in the story, just kind of like as a friendly guy who bumps into Red on the road, and doing this kind of sneaky thing where he's just watching him. And it underscores the point that Red's a kid, he's not that experienced, but he has a lot of ingenuity. But the reason Giovanni concludes that he's not a threat is he sees that Red is very compassionate and merciful, and he won't kill an enemy Pokemon, which Giovanni will do. So another thing that kind of went viral about this book is people will post memes of the Pokemon getting maimed and murdered in this manga. It's still all ages. It's not really graphic. It has a really important narrative purpose. That Giovanni's someone who will treat these as tools and will kill them if that's what he thinks is convenient for himself. And Red is someone who's very compassionate. So it's a really, really effective use of portraying evil as evil without being overly graphic for a child. Like, any child would understand why it would be wrong to murder these Pokemon in that situation. And then it really cements Red's compassionate character. Blaine, they have the bright idea that he was formerly with Team Rocket and then defected when he saw what they were doing with Mewtwo. Things in the game like Saffron City or something, you can't get into Saffron City and the guards prevent you from entering. And they have the bright idea that that's because Sabrina is behind it and working with Team Rocket. Neat things like what are you going to do with the 3 legendary bird Pokemon? So they have the bright idea that after Mewtwo fails, the 3 legendary bird Pokemon become Team Rocket's ace in the hole. So these are things that, they don't have anything to do with the anime, they don't have anything to do with the game, but they add a lot of dramatic tension to the battle, which is more important than literally copying every scene of the game word for word. Mato, unfortunately, she fell sick, I think, later on in production, and she wasn't able to continue doing the art for Pokemon Adventures past the first few volumes, but what a genuine talent. I'd really like to find her other work, and just what a sweetheart. Pokemon don't move in the video games, but in my manga, they run around all over the place. What's the most interesting way to show each Pokemon in action? I care a lot about that. I would be very happy if after reading this manga, people who have never even heard of Pokemon before became fans, and if Pokemon fans grow to love Pokemon even more than before. So, starting with a very, very simple, bare bones game, she realizes she has to bring it to life and add action and kind of combat choreography elements to it to really A, make new fans, and B, build the interests of fans of the original. What a fantastic series. You don't even have to be a Pokemon nerd to really get it. It is the perfect starter manga for a young reader, even more than the great Akira Himekawa Legend of Zelda series, I think. I think they took some care to make sure that kids who don't play the games would still be able to grasp what was going on in the manga for that. The Western comic I'm looking at, JLA Year 1. And the storytellers are Mark Waid, and Brian Augustine and Barry Kitson. I don't think Mark Waid is an artist at all, so my guess is Brian Augustine and Barry Kitson may have shared some of the art duties. So this is sort of like Batman Year 1. This is supposed to take you back to the very beginnings of some of these characters, show you kind of like early in their career when they're not as experienced. one of the things about the art of Batman Year One is it was very memorable and sleek. A lot of like very simple shapes in Batman Year One. This is a little bit more just kind of like a standard comic book art style, but it's done professionally and it works. For some reason, they traded out Wonder Woman with Black Canary, and I don't know why. You'd think Wonder Woman would be the bigger name character to include, but this isn't supposed to literally be the Golden Age or Silver Age version of the JLA. This is supposed to be like a slightly updated version of the JLA, but still showing their early adventures. From a writing perspective, it did a really good job of highlighting each of their weaknesses and how, as they're younger, they're a little bit more inexperienced. The Flash is a little bit more antsy and unsure of whether he's a human being anymore. Black Canary kind of has independence issues where she doesn't want her mom dictating her life, and her mom's a hero, so she kind of brings some experience to the table. Aquaman doesn't really see himself as a hero, as a superhero. He sees himself as an Atlantean and kind of a fish out of water. He doesn't know how to fit in on the surface, and so he has trust issues with some of the surface dwellers. Hal Jordan is extra hot dog pilot. There are great little scenes, like he doesn't bring his ring into the cockpit with him because the ring protects him, and he's afraid that he's worried that if he has the ring with him, he's going to take chances he wouldn't take as a human being pilot. Like what kind of a test pilot flies around with a magic green airbag with him? And John Jones. Is that right? John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, is a little bit wooden and very professional in catching crooks, but he still hasn't quite figured out how to blend with normal human society yet. So the idea is that when they come together, it's sort of like they find fellow outsiders. The Isle of Misfit Toys finally get together for an act for fighting the evildoers together. It was a fun little comic. I would get more of it. It doesn't quite have like the warmth that Batman Year One has, but as much as I love memes making fun of Mark Waid, I've got to admit that the character development in this was quite good, the action was quite good, and the art served the story well. So I would check it out. All right, no more Marmaduke fan. Love you guys. Catch you later.